Alright, welcome back everybody for another Candlekeep adventure. Now notice at the top, this one's for level 8 characters. So we're getting on up about midway right here as far as the levels. So this one's called the Lore of Larue. So they tell you that this book here was produced by a high mage of the Silvery Moon. Just gives you a little basic information right there. And the book offers a look into the history behind the founding of a prominent city. In actuality, what this book is an enchanted book. Anybody who reads it is going to get pulled into it and have to go through this adventure. And if they complete it, they will be given some gifts and blessings. So we'll see what those are at the end. So if the party gets pulled into the book, they're going to be transported to a demi-plane into the heart of a forest. So we'll see what's happening in this forest. There's several individuals to talk to and investigate along the way. What they're going to find out is that a blight has come upon this area of the woods. It's all about the corruption of a spring, so the players want to find out who has corrupted this spring and who's killing animals in the area. So you can have the party find the book in any way that you want. But they tell you this book really stands out. It's a rich purple and has a unicorn on the front of it. So there you go. There's a good picture. It's very striking, just like a lot of these are. But this is going to have a lot to do with Larue. It's a lesser deity that often takes the form of a unicorn, so obviously it's a fey goddess. We'll see it further along. So lore coming to life. Anybody with a 14 intel check can tell that this book is enchanted. So as soon as the characters open it and start to look at it, a few sentences in common are going to appear. And they give you a little text box right here to read. As soon as somebody turns the page, the book glows and a gate spell will be activated. Anybody right here around the book will be transported to this demi-plane, and if anybody standing nearby in the party is just looking in that direction, they can see this gate appear and they can go through it too. Now they tell you that no map is needed for this adventure, because the players will be forced to go along through the chapters of the book one after another. Now, they'll initially appear in a meadow, and there's this invisible barrier force all around them. So even though, say, the party can see in all directions and they don't see this barrier, they will be sort of forced, channeled to go in one particular direction. So that's why they tell you no map is needed for this book here. So they tell you this will bring them out to a forest near Silvery Moon. You can make it any place you want. As usual, doesn't matter. The characters will now become the participants in the book. So they won't be reading about someone in their adventures. They're suddenly becoming the people who are living the adventure. Now this one right here is not really dangerous, because they tell you if any players drop to 0 hit points, they'll be instantly teleported back to Candlekeep, right where they started with the book, and they'll be at 1 hit point. So nobody's going to die through this adventure right here. If this person wants to rejoin the party, they can finish a long rest and then go right back into that gate. Now, they tell you that time passes differently inside this storybook demi-plane. So if somebody finishes a long rest, they'll always rejoin the party just one encounter area after the one where they got killed. So just a little bit further along is where they're going to find them. And again, that gate's always going to be open. So as soon as the party appears in this little meadow area, they won't travel far and they're going to find 3 satyrs. So they're going to see these satyrs. As long as they're friendly, they're going to be happy to talk to them. And they tell you with a little wisdom insight check, somebody can confirm that they are telling the truth. So looking at these satyrs up here, they tell you, the party, that they were attacked by a group of ravens. And now they'd like the party to help them get back home. Where they want to go is a place called, looks like, Palvar Plateau. So as they join the satyrs along the way, they can talk to them and learn a few things. The satyrs will tell them that they've been hearing cracks of thunder, but they don't see any storms. They don't know where it's coming from. They occasionally see bolts of red lightning coming out of the sky. We'll see what's causing that further along. They tell you that there are strange tribesfolk in the forest killing the animals. We'll see why they're doing that further along too. There's a community of pixies and sprites not far ahead near the plateau, which is the satyrs' home. Now this pixie and sprite town is called Dewlight, and the satyrs recommend that the party talks to someone, a sprite that's in Dewlight. Looks like his name is Will Doley. So the characters definitely want to make their way to him. But as they're escorting the satyrs back to their home, The book tells you it takes about 2 to 6 hours, and every hour roll a d20 to see if there's a random encounter. So there might be none, or they might encounter some ravens, werewolves, a tree that bleeds a sap that actually has healing properties. And then up here at the top, maybe they run into a few berserkers. We're going to see more of those further along. And some injured wolves, which could actually use some help. So there's all the possibilities for the random encounters. But as they go deeper into the woods, remember they're being guided by the satyrs, and they are actually friendly, and they're not trying to trick them here in any way. Eventually they'll be led to a gigantic maple tree in this home where the satyrs like to live. And they'll tell them this is a sanctuary for fey creatures. So as the party investigates, this maple tree is just unbelievably big. Has a 100-foot diameter at the bottom of it, so it's an incredibly big tree. As they approach it, the tree comes alive and it speaks, and they'll soon discover it's actually a friendly treant named Fëanor. So the satyrs right here, they tell you like to go back to their wine, and they'll leave the characters to talk to the treant. And the treant can have some useful information for them. So here's the little town where all the little pixies and sprites and such live. They actually live in these little mushroom houses. You can see the little lanterns and other little structures on it and so on down the line. So the party's going to be talking to this treant. Fëanor treats them as allies. Again, as long as they don't attack, there's no problem with him, just like it was with the satyrs before. He reports his findings. I give him sort of a loud, booming voice as big as he is, talking about the pool of eternal spring. The party is going to have to make their way to this pool, purify and clean it. Something that the treant and the others don't know about is contaminating this pool, and it's causing big problems with all the life in the area. So the treant urges the characters to resume their travels and suggests that they stop along the way in this community of Dewlight and again speak to this little sprite named Will Dooley. Looks like he might be one of these guys shown in this picture right up here. Now before they leave, the treant Fëanor will give them a vial, a potion of giant strength. So nice little gift to help them out along the way. But eventually they're going to make their way to Dewlight. Again, remember these paths are one way. Party really can't probably go back or off the path in either direction. The book will always lead them forward. So they'll eventually reach this little town community, these little tiny people. They'll see that they live in these little mushroom houses. They'll see the little tiny lanterns, chimneys, and figure out their houses real quick. So as soon as they enter this area, this town of Dewlight, all the pixies and sprites are going to turn invisible and run away and hide, except for one. Looks like Will Dooley, or Will Doley is his name. Now he's an elderly sprite. Now he's a lot more curious as to about why the characters are here versus the others. So notice up here he'll greet them. Greetings, big folk. And if the characters start to mention that they spoke to the treant, Fëanor, back there before, he'll be quite friendly. Sort of a friend sort of thing. Now he'll tell them that there are signs of a battle brewing. He'll tell them there are vicious predators stalking the woods. He's learned that they're disciples of Malar, the Beast Lord. Not a nice person at all right there. There are disturbances to the north, and they seem to be coming from the pool of eternal spring. So something's gone wrong here at this pool. Now they tell you it's ordinarily a hallowed site associated with this deity, Larue, which is like this fey unicorn goddess. Usually a very nice person, keeps everything nice and healthy, woods, all the inhabitants, and so on down the line. Will Doley tells them that it's very urgent that they get there and solve whatever's happening to this pool in just a day or two. After this, there'll be the winter solstice, and it'll just be too late. So he tries to encourage them to find their way there quickly. So as they leave, they're going to encounter a pebbled path that eventually turns dirt and then into spider webs. So people traveling along this spider web path right here have to make a dex save to keep from being restrained. And if they do, they can escape with a little strength check or a dexterity acrobatics check. Along this pathway, filled with webs, fire, of course, will damage it quite well if they want to get rid of them. And there's 4 cowardly ettercaps lurking nearby, so they're going to be very cautious to attack. Maybe they can get one person off, attack from behind, whatever. If they start to get beaten, they're going to run off. Now at the end of this path, they're going to eventually find a hag's hovel. Seems like the writers of Candlekeep really like these hags right here for some reason. So eventually at the end of this path, they're going to find a wooden shack. There's going to be a low stone wall with a hole in it. It's a well is what it is. We'll see what's in this well in a second. And as they get closer, they're going to hear the cackling of a hag. What else would hags and witches be doing other than cackling? So they've got a little map here in just a second. Just shows 3 little encounter areas. One of them's a dry well. Now they tell you that if somebody looks down into the well, it will attract the attention of a Grick alpha. Unless someone's looking really close or maybe drops a torch down in it, they probably won't see it. And when they turn their back, it's going to jump out and it's going to try and get a surprise attack from behind on someone. So here's that well right here. Here's the little hag house. And this over here, H3, is actually a little group of prison cells or cages. Probably be a little bit more accurate description. So there's the Hag Shack. So inside is a night hag. And this night hag loves to torture and terrorize anyone or anything it finds in the forest. So when the party approaches the shack, as long as they're quiet, they're going to see 2 figures bound and gagged on the floor. There's a blue-skinned hag looming over them. So that's where the cackling is coming from. So that's a couple of dryads that this hag has captured. She's really focused on the tormenting and such. So someone with a 15 stealth check can actually slip up behind the hag and surprise her. So she'll fight when she has to. And if it looks like she's going to lose the battle, she'll plane shift and leave. So she's not going to hang around and fight to the death. Now there's the 2 dryads which can be rescued. Looks like Tricala and Argentia are their names. Now of course they'll be very grateful. And they'll quickly tell the party they have a companion, a 3rd dryad named Hanna, which was taken off to the east. So of course immediately they want to get over and investigate, see what happened to the 3rd group of their party. So they tell you there's a couple of potions here, one of clairvoyance, one of healing, so those can always be helpful right there. But what's going on at these little pens and cages? Now as the party approaches them, the book says they'll hear lots of clawing and gnashing. There are animals of all sorts which have been caught by this hag and put in these 18 different cages. So they give you a little list of the animals found here, not important, but in one of the cages is the Dryad Hanna. So right here initially, Hanna's at 0 hit points, but eventually somebody will get Hanna up to at least 1. And of course, they're all going to want to leave here just as quickly as possible and follow the path back to the plateau, which is where they live. So they want to get out of here just as quickly as they can. The party's going to need to go on further down the path. Eventually, they'll come to the river's edge. Now they tell you this is at the northern edge of the forest. There's a body of water, a wide river, so on down the line. If the party wants, they can do a long rest right here, no trouble. Won't be any attacks or anything such as that. And then when they leave, the trail goes out to the west. Again, all this is real linear. Here eventually, they're going to run into the Cult of Malar. Now this is what's really causing the trouble here. They tell you at the end of their journey here, they're going to run into the bloodthirsty minions of, I guess it's Malar, god of the hunt, also known as the Beast Lord. Malar's goal is to assume dominance over the forest, particularly the area around the Pool of Eternal Spring. So that's what's happening to corrupt this spring. And his agents have been hard at work, brutally killing animals of all sorts in tribute to their god and casting the carcasses into the pool. So there's what's causing the contamination. Now what is this cult made up of? Berserkers, wargs, and some werewolves too. We're going to see further along. So when the characters arrive, the cultists have corrupted the water of the pool. They're setting the stage for Malar's final act in his campaign of terror against this forest. Malar believes that there's no better way to demonstrate his dominance by using his cult members to bring forth a corrupted version of the avatar of Larue, the unicorn. In other words, instead of bringing forth a unicorn, bring forth something else that's going to be evil. And that individual will serve the Beast Lord's end. Of course, that's Malar, whatever his name is. It is this effort that the characters must full if they want to end the story. So that's their goal. They got to get rid of all this here. So looking at the cult, they tell you that as the party approaches the campsite, it'll always be night. The book just ensures to that right there. So they hear the rumble of thunder and a flash of red lightning as they approach. The thunder and lightning should make it apparent which direction the character is meant to take, which will be further to the south. They're going to hear gruff voices growling and roaring as they get closer and closer to this campsite. You can see up here there's 6 different huts, as they show right down here in the little description. They tell you there's some dummies made of hides and fur. I guess they've been practicing against these with their weapons. And there's a group of vicious warriors gathered around the campfire, and they seem to be celebrating. And as they do, the party can hear them cry to the Beast Lord. So there's 8 berserkers and 2 wargs here. So with a little dexterity check, the party might be able to slip up on them and get closer if they wish. The berserkers will fight to the death until one of them remains. That last one will retreat to the south and alert the remaining cult members gathered at the pool. So go from the camp to the pool right here, and they may be following this last berserker, lest they kill them all. In the distance, the sky is clear, but directly above the pool is a black storm causing spitting bolts of red lightning. So a cloud just spitting out this red lightning is where it's coming from. Around the pool are 6 wolf-like humanoids. Obviously, those are werewolves, and they're chanting water into blood, earth into bones. So obviously nothing good can come from that. So here they mention the cultist, the 6 werewolves. What's happening as the characters approach, they're actually witnessing the final stage of this ceremony. So this last bolt of lightning is going to strike the surface of the pool. When it does, this big steam cloud erupts, and then as it dissipates, the corrupted avatar of Larue materializes at the edge of the pool, and suddenly the characters and the cultist have a common enemy. So instead of this being a nice friendly unicorn, which it usually would be, it's going to be a nightmare. And what these cultists didn't realize is that this nightmare is not just going to attack other things in the forest, but them too. Now they also tell you some bizarre reason somebody drinks from the pool is going to make them mad. Then go to the DM's guide for how that works in particular there. So now we've got the appearance of this corrupted avatar of Larue. Again, it's a nightmare which has appeared. This nightmare starts to slaughter anything and everything around it, including the werewolves. So they tell you this unicorn, corrupted unicorn I should say, the nightmare, randomly attacks. So if the party needs help, the party could actually join the werewolves in the fight against the nightmare, and then maybe at the end they could fight it out or they could depart ways, however it works out. So they tell you there's some options right here for the DM. In the final scene, if the characters do kill this corrupted avatar of Larue, there's a little box to read. A jagged stroke of white lightning originates from the moon and strikes the unicorn, transforming it into a true living avatar of Larue, the unicorn, with the silvery mane, shimmering hooves, and a spiraling horn. She gives a thankful nod and bends down to dip her horn, now cleansed of corruption, in the pool. So there's your happy ending right there. So in that final scene, everything is brought back the way it should be. Divine magic pours from Larue's horn, which it just dipped into the pool, and turns the tainted pool back into silvery, glistening, pure water, which helps to keep everything in the forest healthy and alive. Her work finished, Larue lifts her head, regards the characters once more, and prepares to take her leave. So in conclusion right here, they talk about the book's final scene. As the words pass into the character's consciousness, which is read up above, the book begins to pull the characters out of the story, and they're returned right back to Candlekeep. So as long as the players did defeat this nightmare, they're going to get a reward. They'll notice sitting on the cover of the book will be a moonstone and opal ring, which is a ring of shooting stars. And at the same time, everybody in the party will receive a supernatural gift from Larue, which is a charm of animal conjuring. So everybody gets this charm, and also there's a ring thrown in there too. So here's what we see is the corrupted avatar of Larue. There's the nightmare right there. So that's basically the goal. Go through this linear pathway through the book. Talk to all the individuals, the satyrs, the treant, the little pixie or sprite there, and so on down the line. Make their way to these cultists. Get rid of these berserkers, these wargs, maybe even kill the werewolves, but the primary goal, number one, is to kill that nightmare. They kill the nightmare, they get taken right back to Candlekeep safely, they get the ring of shooting stars, and then the supernatural gift too. So that is our next adventure for Candlekeep. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.